I salute all three of you. Now, it is 10 a.m. It is time for the phone-in show on the BBC Asian Network with me, Nihal, with a question. Is it disrespectful to have a debate about homosexuality in a religious building? BBC Three's Free Speech, a programme a bit like this, but of course it's on TV, so it's visual. They were due to hold a live televised debate about being Muslim and gay last night, but the discussion was pulled at the last minute after the mosque management objected. Are you surprised? Would a church, temple or gurdwara be any different? Is it ever appropriate to hold a debate about being gay in a religious building? How do you feel about that? As a Hindu? As a Sikh? Would you be comfortable with a debate around homosexuality taking place in your place of worship? 08459 440 445. Give me a call. After news with Nikesh Ragan. The question I got for you this morning, I think, is a very interesting one. And it's not just about Muslims, and it's not just about Islam, and it's not just about mosques. It's about being able to have an open debate about homosexuality in any religious building. Now, if you're a Sikh, how do you feel about that? If you're a Hindu, how do you feel about that? BBC Three's Free Speech programme, which is basically a television version of our show, came from Birmingham Central Mosque last night. They were due to have a discussion about when it would be okay to be Muslim and gay. They had a video diary from the gay Muslim drag queen Asifa Lahore, who's of course been a guest on this show quite a while back. An hour before the programme went on, the people who run the mosque said that Free Speech couldn't go ahead with this particular discussion. BBC Three says that they had an agreement that they could discuss anything, but they hadn't talked to the mosque about homosexuality specifically. When the mosque found out, they put the block on it. The producer of Free Speech says the mosque didn't want to be seen to be condoning homosexuality. So what do you think about this? Do you think the mosque did anything wrong? Do you believe that a Christian church, a Sikh gurdwara, a Hindu temple or a Jewish synagogue would have done anything any differently? Was the programme stupid in the first place to think that they could talk about being gay and Muslim in a mosque? Apparently, the mosque said anything meant veil, terrorism, grooming, but not homosexuality. Which, of course, then doesn't mean anything, does it? Do you understand where they're coming from? Or do you think that it's strange that they were happy to talk about anything else, but not being Muslim and gay? And what do you think about a discussion show coming from a mosque? Do you think it is designed to be inflammatory and to paint Muslims in a bad light? Or do you feel that it is an important exercise in opening the door to discussion and showing a different side of Islam from within one of its religious buildings? Come on, tell me what you think. Is it ever acceptable to have a debate about homosexuality in a religious building? We've got someone coming on who's a Sikh. He's also gay and believes that it would not be appropriate or acceptable to have a conversation about homosexuality in a gurdwara. Do you agree with him or disagree? And what if you're a Hindu? Hinduism, a religion that says there are many paths to God. I've been told on this show by Hindus before that there is nothing technically against homosexuality in Hinduism. So, can you imagine such a debate happening in your local temple? Be honest with me. That's all I ask. Tell me what you believe. Tell me what your instinct is when you hear this question. Is it disrespectful to have a debate about homosexuality in a religious building? Not only do we have series producer of BBC's Free Speech coming up, we also have Dr. Nassim. And he is the chairperson of the Birmingham Central Mosque. So we're going to go in from the off, dealing with two people at the heart of this debate. But of course, it's all about your opinions, what you think. So don't be shy. If you've never texted, called or emailed this show before, make today the first time that you do it. Text 81869, email me, Nihal, at bbc.co.uk. You can tweet us at BBC Asian Network and leave a comment for us on our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/BBC Asian Network. So there you go. That's 4 ways. Here's the 5th.
Call Nihal now on 08459 440
Do you believe that it's disrespectful to have a debate about homosexuality in a religious building? Because that's exactly what BBC Three's free speech programme wanted to do. It met up with Birmingham Central Mosque. They said, anything goes, it's fine, we can have a discussion about anything. At least that's what Mentorn, the production company who makes BBC Three's free speech, said. Then, of course, the issue of homosexuality came up. And at the last minute, the mosque in question decided it didn't want to have that debate. Let's speak to Dr. Naseem from Birmingham Central Mosque. And after that, Hayley Valentine, the series producer, will join us. Dr. Naseem, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Tell me, what is your definition of anything goes?
Well, I haven't given it a thought to this one to define what do you mean by anything goes. I mean, there is a time and place for everything, and the manner you discuss it. But I'm not very clear. What do you mean by anything goes?
Well, did you mislead Mentorn, the production company, by saying that they were able to discuss anything? Mentorn say that they asked you the question, is there anything we can't discuss? And you said no.
Well, nobody spoke to me. Nobody spoke to any responsible member of the committee. All we understood was that they were going to discuss immigration.
So that's the only thing they mentioned to you, did they?
Yeah, that's the only thing they mentioned.
All right, well, let's give Hayley Valentine a right reply on that. Hayley Valentine, executive producer for Free Speech. Very good morning to you, Hayley.
Good morning.
Did you only discuss immigration with the mosque?
That's not quite what our series producer discussed with the mosque. In an original email, we suggested that we might do something on immigration on the programme. But as you know, the discussion about what we might do on the programme changed as time went on, and we are led by what our audience wants to talk about. So in more recent conversations with the mosque, we said to them, is there anything that you're uncomfortable with, anything that we can't talk to you on the programme? And my understanding is that they said, no, there's nothing that you can't discuss. However, as you know, on the evening, they became uncomfortable about the possibility of discussing homosexuality, and out of respect for the mosque, we went with their wishes and dropped that idea.
So from the off, did your series producer mention homosexuality within the context of what could and couldn't be discussed?
I don't believe he mentioned homosexuality specifically. However, I believe he had a conversation with the mosque where he said, is there anything that you're uncomfortable with us discussing? I think that the mosque didn't cross their mind that that's what we would be considering.
And at what point was this subject put forward to the mosque?
When we planned the programme yesterday and the day before, we built set, we arrived on location, and in the course of yesterday, the mosque understood what we were planning to discuss, and at that stage we had a conversation with them about it. They were uncomfortable, and as I say, out of respect for them, we dropped the idea.
Right, so, I mean, I had a conversation with someone who works around free speech some weeks ago when they discussed with me that you were going to be discussing homosexuality at the mosque. Why did it take so long between you discussing internally and the mosque finding out about it?
Well, as you know, when we plan these programmes, there are a range of topics up for discussion, depending on what happens in the news. I mean, you know, the programme was dominated last night by the closure of BBC Three, which is an issue which was only brought to our attention, as you know, a week ago. So those of us who work in news know that we change our views all the time, and the programme is about what the audience wants to talk about. So we can't confirm the stories that we might or might not do on the programme until much closer to the transmission time.
But of course, homosexuality is not a news story as such, is it? It is a general story that you could have at any time. It's not time-specific. Therefore, ask the question, either free speech was naive in thinking that it wouldn't be much of an issue and it would be on a par with immigration, or mischievous.
That's an accusation you can make. However, I would say that we had the conversation about is there anything you don't want us to discuss? Is anything, you know, make you feel uncomfortable in advance? And they said no.
But you were aware some weeks ago that homosexuality was on the table, and yet you waited till the last minute to spring it upon the people at the mosque.
I don't think we sprang it upon them. We had a general conversation with them about what we might discuss and what we might what might come up on the programme. And those decisions don't get made until the day of the programme.
Dr. Nassim, are you satisfied with that?
No, I'm afraid there have been some aspects which have been missed. They might have discussed between themselves. But free speech is a very wide title. It doesn't address specific issues. Under the title of free speech, they wanted to discuss a specific issue, and we had to consider whether that specific issue was suitable for discussion in that place, in that audience, because the young audience was more concerned about jobs, unemployment, taxation. These were the problems they were interested in. Now,
but Dr. Nassim, Hayley Valentine is saying that her audience for BBC Three's Free Speech did want to talk about homosexuality and Islam, and I'm sure, Dr. Nassim, you would accept that there are Muslims who are gay.
Well, that may be so, but that doesn't mean that the general norms of having a program should be discarded. If it was to be specifically discussed, then I would have thought somebody would have discussed it with a senior person at the mosque, and then we would have given a proper reply at that time, and they wouldn't have wasted about £100,000 for setting up a marquee in a very noisy place. Now, this subject, I'm afraid, was not discussed or considered with empathy and seriousness that it deserves. I would have liked to discuss it with a group of scientists, biologists, sociologists. Now, that is the kind of people that I would have liked to discuss it.
So sorry, do you think then that free speech, just to be clear, were not approaching the subject seriously enough?
Well, there are many subjects which should not be covered because they have got their own importance. They should not be presented under the cover of free speech. If we respect that issue, then we should give it a proper importance and discuss it in a proper place and with proper people who are qualified.
But Dr. Nassim, do you not think it ironic that you invite a programme called Free Speech into your mosque and then not allow them to exercise free speech?
Well, let me correct you on this. We did not invite them.
Well, they didn't gate crash. I mean, they're not going to be able to just come in, are they, uninvited?
When they discuss this issue, if, as you maintain, they want to discuss free speech, as I submitted earlier, free speech has got many dimensions. We are not discussing compulsive murders under free speech. We are not discussing people who go on the internet and watch videos of young children. Now, that is also free speech, free action. But we are not discussing those under the title of free speech.
But Dr. Nassim, do you feel as though that you were misled by BBC Free Speech?
I wouldn't go that far because that would mean giving them an intentional neglect. I think it was an oversight. They haven't considered it in depth. They haven't discussed it in depth with us.
But Dr. Nassim, shouldn't you be able to have a mature, open discussion about homosexuality, which exists? You cannot pretend, nobody can pretend it doesn't exist. Shouldn't you be able to have an open and honest discussion about that anywhere?
As I submitted earlier, the subject is of much serious import, and it should be dealt with that kind of empathy and at that level. And as I said earlier, I would love to discuss it in the presence of a sociologist.
So Dr. Nassim, are you saying then that free speech didn't get the right type of experts in to be able to have the discussion, and that's why you didn't want the discussion to take place at the Birmingham Central Mosque, because they didn't cast the right type of guests?
Well, I think I have made myself clear that there are subjects of very serious import They need respect, empathy, and they should be discussed in a proper atmosphere.
No, I understand. I understand that. But what I'm trying to get to is whether you objected to the discussion about homosexuality because you do not feel it's acceptable to have a discussion like that in a mosque, or whether you didn't want it to happen because you had issues around the kind of people who would be discussing it, and you didn't feel that BBC Three had got the right type of guests. And that's a distinction. So why is it that you objected to it? Tell me the reason why you objected.
Well, we don't do marine biology in the mosque. That is not the audience that is qualified to discuss this subject.
Okay, but you were happy to talk about grooming, and yet I presume you didn't have any groomers in there.
Groomers?
Yes, you didn't have any sexual predators and paedophiles in the audience, to the best of your knowledge, did you?
Well, I don't see what is the relevance of this idea.
Well, no, the relevance is, Dr. Naseem, is that you're arguing that unless you've got the right types of guests, you shouldn't be having the discussion. Now, I'm trying to ascertain, and I'm sure my audience as well is whether you had an issue with the debate about homosexuality full stop, or whether you had an issue with BBC Three's free speech having the right type of guests to discuss homosexuality. Can you be very clear with me on this?
Yes, sir. Well, you have used the word debate. I don't think it's a debating issue. It is an issue for discussion with seriousness and with empathy.
What's the difference between discussion and debate?
Debate, you try to win your points.
Well,
you have debates in the parliament, yes.
Okay, then what about discussion then? Can you not have a discussion about homosexuality in a mosque or a gurdwara or a Hindu temple? You don't...
Why you choose a religious place? That is not a scientific place. I was discussing with the university.
Okay. Hayley Valentine, executive producer for Free Speech. Do you agree with Dr. Naseem that you shouldn't have a debate about homosexuality in a mosque? It's meant to be in a university where you can have a scientific discussion about it. Would you accept that you didn't cast it particularly well?
Yeah,
I think that the point of the programme is to take it out to audiences around the country and allow young audiences who watch BBC Three to discuss as wide a range of subjects as possible. And it was in that spirit that we were in Birmingham last night and chose the backdrop of the mosque as a location as an interesting way into talking about a range of subjects. And we'll continue to do that. I think that the conversation that we had last night about what we did and didn't do in the programme took place in private, and the detail of casting didn't arise, but I don't really want to go into the detail of what we discussed. Only to say that it was a very constructive and calm and well-managed conversation, and I think that we agreed that out of respect for the mosque, we wouldn't discuss something that they were clearly uncomfortable with.
And were you not aware at all, which kind of comes back to the question of naivety, that it would be an issue on religious sanctified ground to discuss a sin, essentially?
But we do a range of subjects from a range of locations, and yes, of course, some of those are controversial, some of them are conversations that don't take place on television terribly often. However, as I said to you to start with, the general principle was raised that nothing was banned, nothing was, out of bounds.
So do you feel you were misled by the mosque then?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think that there was a genuine misunderstanding where it simply hadn't crossed their minds that this might be a topic to conversation. And when it was brought to their attention, they were uncomfortable with it, and I have every respect for that, and that's why we choose not to do the subject.
And can you answer this question? When you said that that's what your audience wanted to discuss, homosexuality and Islam, what do you base that on? Polling, research, hashtags? What?
We ask our audience to submit questions. We ask them to like certain subjects on Facebook.
And was that the top of the list? Was it in the amount of likes that got?
No. BBC Three and the potential closure of BBC Three was the top of our list by a long way last night. And as you saw from the programme, if you watched it, the programme was dominated by that.
Okay. Hayley Valentine, thank you very much indeed for joining us, executive producer there for Free Speech. Let's speak to Hardeep, who runs gayseek.com, not a real name. Good morning.
Good morning, how you doing?
I'm good. Hardeep, can I ask you, would it be acceptable to have a conversation about homosexuality in a Gurdwara?
Personally speaking, I would say no. For me, the Gurdwara is a place of worship, a place of peace, and a place of facts. So when you come to discuss homosexuality, I believe it's a fact that, within Sikhism you can be gay, it's not a big deal. But I can also understand that some people would contest that. And that's not going to be respectful of our religion to discuss it in a holy place. I think that it's very, very important that decision, that debate or discussion does take place. But I do not want it ever to take place in the Gurdwara, because you're taking away the peace from other people. And I think that it shouldn't have gone ahead in the mosque either. And the BBC really shouldn't have thought about it being put in a mosque.
Why not? After all, why should a place which is supposed to be a place of learning, supposed to be a place about religious debate, and some religions have a view on homosexuality, why shouldn't you be able to discuss something that exists in nature? And if, after all, nature is created by God, then why can you not have a discussion about anything related to nature in God's house?
See, I don't agree with you saying that a place of worship is a place of debate. I don't think that that's the right thing to do. Like, if there's any chance of anyone being upset...
But people do, don't they? People have, throughout history, questioned various things, because, of course, there is room for interpretation in every religion. Therefore, people will say, well, what does this mean? Well, I don't think it means that. Now, as soon as somebody asks that question, it's a debate. It's a discussion, isn't it?
It's a debate, yes, but if people are getting upset and it's causing a rift within the group or within the actual building, I wouldn't want it to take place there. Now, this is my opinion, and I know that, like you said, these things do happen in places of worship, but in my opinion, it really shouldn't. It needs to happen away from any conflict, because you're killing the peace, essentially. There are many ways of learning about the religion, and there's a good way about learning about your religion in the place of worship. But when it becomes to conflicting situations, take it out, speak to the same people, but just somewhere else.
Hardeep, stay with us. Let's speak to Chan in Bristol, who got in contact with us. 08459 440 445 is the phone number. Text 81869 or email me, nihal@bbc.co.uk. Chan, good morning.
Good morning, Nihal. I'd just like to say, is it Hardeep?
Yeah, Hardeep, yeah.
I agree with a great deal of what he's saying, because as a Sikh and as a former leader of my particular Sikh Gurdwara, I would never have permitted that, because the Gurdwara, and I don't want to sound condescending to all my Sikh brothers and sisters out there, the Gurdwara simply means the doorway to the Guru Dawara, yeah? So within that Gurdwara is installed our holy book, the Guru Granth Sahib. And the 10th Guru of the Sikhs said that this is, there will be no physical mortal being to guide you. You will take your ministry from the Guru Granth Sahib. So to me, the Guru Granth Sahib is there. It's a religious building. It's not a debating place. The Guru Granth Sahib, the scriptures are read by the priest, and he will pick a subject, and he will his whole the hymns and the sermon will be based, on that. So it's not a debating place for homosexuality or anything else.
But if religions are all-encompassing, Chan, and as I hear people from all religions say their faith is a way of life, then if you were to accept that homosexuality is a way of life, there are some people who are born gay, then surely you must be able to discuss anything related to life. Because don't excuse me, don't Gurdwaras, like Hindu temples, like mosques, also double up as community centres, places where the Sikh community, the Hindu community, the Muslim community can gather and discuss different issues, whether it be the weather, whether it be taxes, whether it be immigration or homosexuality.
Yeah, well, you have a point there, and it's a good point. There are parts of a Gurdwara that are for social interaction, but the committee that is tasked with, and they are tasked by the electorate, the Sad Sangat of that Gurdwara, you see, and if they said, well, anything goes, you want to hold a debate on that, that would be theirs. their choice. Do you see what I'm saying? But speaking for myself as a former leader of our community, my own personal views and my guidance to my committee would be we cannot permit this because it is not the teachings of Guru Nanak, which is the Guru Nanak's if you like, message is about a family-based religion. It's about a path, through being a householder, a family man, etc. And, and therefore it is encompassing in that respect. But you are quite right. There are parts of a Gurdwara where they are community centres, etc. And I think a lot of them are charities. So yeah, I think that is a question they got to ask themselves, really.
Right. Okay. So not exactly within the building where the Sri Guru Granth, the Sri Guru Granth Sahib is not there.
Yeah.
But in an adjacent building, even if it's on Gurdwara land, would you accept a debate about homosexuality there?
Oh, I could only speak for myself, and I would again seek guidance from my committee and the community. Before I would have said to BBC Three, yeah, we're okay to go with that. I would have got my facts right, and because at the end of the day, I would have been responsible and answerable to my community. My gut feeling would have been no, but that's me on a personal level. But because they're democratic institutions, with a hierarchy and voting structure, etc., I would have to ask the committee. The committee asked the Sadh Sangat, and if the Sadh Sangat was happy to go with it, then yeah, I'd run with it. But I would never permit it in the prayer hall, if you like. I would never permit it in that area.
Right, Chan, thank you very much for sharing. Hardeep, you want to come back in?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think there's a big difference between a couple of people discussing it in the Langar hall, for example, as opposed to it being an organised debate that's televised on TV. I think you made a good point about the community, having a social life and discussing things such as weather and such forth. But if the discussion about homosexuality does come up, it's not like saying, right, we're talking about homosexuality, let's leave the building. If it's between two people downstairs, I don't see a problem with that. But I do see a problem in making it a big deal, getting the cameras involved, and then sort of like doing a big show off saying, oh, we're in the Gurdwara talking about homosexuality. That's when people are going to get really upset. And also, if two people can't come to a discussion, a conclusion about what they believe is correct or not, I don't see it being a bad problem approaching the priest and asking his opinion. That's a very personal thing and a very personal discussion, and I'm completely fine with that. But when it becomes public and a bit of a show and tell, I think it needs to completely not be in the Gurdwara.
Okay, Hardeep, thank you very much indeed. Minaz has got in contact with us to say you should be able to discuss anything in a religious building. Islam guides me in everything I do. Therefore, if I felt I needed to know more about anything, I would go to the mosque or an Islamic centre with the expectation my questions would be welcomed and answered. When I was in my teens, for all the female students at the mosque, we had a knowledgeable female teacher who discussed everything with us. There were no taboo subjects and we weren't forbidden to talk about any subject. This is how I believe all Islamic institutions and religious buildings should behave. By making things taboo, you perpetuate ignorance in religious communities. In my opinion, there is nothing worse than ignorance. Allah encourages Muslims to go out and learn and increase their knowledge. It is part of being a Muslim. Dr. Naseem, what do you make of that text that's just come in?
Well, I have said earlier, yes, a person can come and discuss it on a personal basis. That is a different thing altogether. And I object to the word debate. It is not a debating issue. It is a serious issue for discussion. We haven't done our homework on this subject at all. The politicians have reacted in a knee-jerk fashion to a certain practice in the society, but it has never been given the respect that they deserve. Its sociological effect, its biological reason, its scientific issues. Now, these are the subjects of serious import and should be discussed at that level.
Dr. Naseem, thank you. Raj from Tiger Styles just tweeted me, commenting on what Chan said, actually, saying Guru Maharaj would allow Sikhs to have open discussions on all subjects. Through discussion, we reach truth. So Raj didn't agree with Chan when Chan said, who was a former leader of a Gurdwara, that in his day, when he was running the Gurdwara, you would not have had a debate around homosexuality. So we're opening this out to the Sikh community, the Hindu community, who are remaining quiet at the moment. Why is that? If you're a Hindu listening to the BBC Asia Network, I want to hear from you on this. How do you feel about a debate taking place in a Hindu temple around homosexuality, or, if you don't like the word debate, a discussion, as Dr. Nassim would rather we use? 08459 440 445 or tweet us at BBC Asia Network. Okay, I have so many texts and emails coming in about this. Seema has said, homosexuality is so common these days. I think it's more to do with the fact the whole Asian culture bringing shame to the family, that so many people are afraid of coming out. It should be openly discussed. We're in a modern society where people have the right to live their life and their own choice. It's more of a personal opinion that causes the issue rather than religious. What a load of nonsense. The mosque and committee members involved should be ashamed of themselves. Shuja in Peterborough's opinion. Rani, not her real name, who is from Redbridge, got in contact with us. Rani, hello.
Hi, Nihal.
Do you agree that it is inappropriate and borderline disrespectful to have a debate about homosexuality in a religious building, or do you think that you should be able to discuss anything in a religious building?
Yeah, it's a very simple question, and it's a very simple answer that yes, you should be able to. The answer is yes to it.
But, Rani, I mean, I'll ask you this question.
Yes.
If the religion says that it's a sin, then surely if you're going to have openly gay people walk in and discuss their sexuality in the same way that heterosexuals wouldn't talk about their sexuality. I mean, I'm not sure. Are you gay or heterosexual?
No, me being straight, I would still discuss because I would still go and discuss about this because if not necessarily, I'm not necessarily. Any person who wants to enter into such sort of a discussion in a holy place or a community centre needs to be straight or gay. It doesn't matter. It could be a family member. It could be a dad who want to know more about homosexuality because obviously the son is gay and they're not accepting the son. And he probably wants to know more about it than what is it. Do you understand, Nihal? I mean, being an Asian, it is really sadly, especially parents, they don't accept their daughters or their son being gay or homosexual, and if they have told their parents that this is who I am, this is what I am, and they have very, very little knowledge about this community. So yes, for that purpose, I think it should be an open discussion. Anybody and everybody should be able to attend.
Okay, Rani, thank you very much. Anil is a texter who got in contact with us. After Anil, we'll speak to Suraj Banot, who's a guest of mine. Anil, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Now, Anil, do you mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 24.
24. 24. Happy birthday, my friend. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Anil, we spoke to Chan earlier on, who's former head of a Gurdwara, who said that in his day, he would never have allowed a debate to take place about homosexuality in a Gurdwara. Do you agree with him?
So I'm a Sikh. I went to the Gurdwara weekly growing up, and I find it offensive that he would say that because you go to the Gurdwara to learn, and especially growing up as well I grew up in a very British community, so when I was at the Gurdwara, I didn't really understand what was going on. A discussion like that would have been really helpful for someone like me growing up, and it would have been helpful for a lot of people, particularly youngsters, but even older generations who maybe don't understand homosexuality because it is a taboo subject. But the other thing as well, which disappoints me, is that, the Guru Granth Sahib doesn't say anything about homosexuality. It doesn't even, it doesn't say you shouldn't be gay. It doesn't even mention it. The only times it mentions marriage, I think, or it does, assume it's between a man and a woman. But you have to kind of build that around the context in which the Guru Granth Sahib is written, which is in certain communities and in those cultures, homosexuality is a taboo, and I don't think it should be anymore. So, yeah, it should be discussed.
Wow, it should be. You're quite happy to sit there. Would you be quite happy to sit there with your parents while this debate was being had about homosexuality?
I would love it if my mum was to sit there and have that discussion, just because I think there is a case of them having to be educated on it to a degree, because it has been a taboo subject for them. And I'm quite fortunate in that when those topics have come up in the media and things, my mum has always been quite open about it, and right. She understands that it is genetic. There's nothing wrong with being. You don't choose to be homosexual. You are or you're not. Yeah. I'm quite fortunate that I've been brought up like that. But I would love it if, friends and family were at the Gurdwara and that was being discussed and they were educated on it.
I mean, could you imagine the people who run your local Gurdwara being open-minded enough to allow a discussion like this to take place?
Unfortunately, I don't think in all cases that would happen. They are from a different generation and they do have their own ideologies, and even though they don't necessarily fit into Sikhism, they kind of bring culture into it as well. And if it's a taboo subject in culture, it does kind of come into religion for them. I do find that really sad. I do not think that should be the case at all.
So do you think that this is then a generational issue, that older people who run these religious buildings, whether it be a Hindu temple, a Sikh Gurdwara or a Muslim mosque, they have the issue with it, but a younger generation are more open-minded?
100%. I think younger generations, particularly that have been brought up in this country, and we grow up in an age where the internet, there's so much information everywhere. I think our generation are so much more tolerant with it and don't judge. It's just part of normal lives. But for the older generation, it has been a taboo subject for them. They've got their own view on it, and they're probably not going to budge, unfortunately.
Right. Listen, Anil, thank you so much for speaking to us today about this. It's really good to hear a young Sikh voice on that. Anil, thank you. Let's speak to Mohammed, who's in Nottingham. Hello, Mohammed.
Oh, well, how are you doing?
I'm well, mate. I'm well. Thanks for calling in, Mohammed.
No problem.
Do you think it's acceptable to have a discussion about homosexuality in a religious building, regardless whether it's a mosque, Gurdwara, temple? Do you think it's acceptable?
I think personally, I don't think it's acceptable, because I think that the Gurdwara or a mosque is a place of worship, and I think the people that go there, majority of them will take homosexuality, the subject, as a taboo, and homosexuality in most religions is even a sin. So I don't think people would be very happy talking about such a subject in a very religious place. I personally think if you wish to talk about a subject like this, you should arrange a conference in the university, and then people that are very interested in the subject, they can show up to such a building. I can understand why I can't remember the doctor's name, the one who was having issues with letting the homosexuality discussion take place in a mosque had issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could understand his perspective as to why he didn't want the discussion to take place there.
But I suppose, Mohammed, homosexuality exists in men and women, and if, as many Muslims and people of all faiths say to me quite often, Islam is a way of life.
Sure.
So if you have to accept...
100% true. However, in Islam, homosexuality is a sin. It is prohibited, and the Prophet Muhammad himself said, though there will come a time where everything I've taught would be questioned, and people won't really believe in it. And like a lot of Muslims see that time as in today. This is that very time, because homosexuality was prohibited. Now, just in the last 40 to 50 years, there's been a lot of talk about homosexuality. For example, 40 years ago in UK, dancing with a man was looked down upon. Now being homosexual is slowly becoming the norm. However, in Islam, the book is still the same, and some of the teachings of it. And those teachings are that homosexuality is a sin.
Mohammed, thank you very much indeed for that. Let's speak to Dr. Swami, who got in contact with us. Dr. Swami, good morning.
Everybody.
What would you like to say?
Basically, the premise of your debate is wrong. In those religions where homosexuality is a taboo, it is an either-or issue. So you either go to mosque to pray as a Muslim, or you stay out of a mosque as a gay. You can't have both things. The second issue is about decorum. For example, you don't discuss whether you wipe or wash your asshole.
Wait a minute. Look, Dr. Swami, come on.
Sorry.
You just don't know. Wait a minute. Let me just apologise to our audience for a second, Dr. Swami, for your. Well, no. The point is, you're going to just be quiet for a second when I apologise to the audience, and you're going to be faded down in the process. My apologies for Dr. Swami, who's old enough to know better, for saying what he just said, Dr. Swami. Now, you're a smart person. Clearly, you've got a PhD. please refrain from being overly descriptive. Right, make your point.
Certain things, there's a place and time for discussing things. It's a secular, you need a secular forum to discuss these things.
But wait a minute, Dr. Swami, why is it then, when religions claim to be a way of life, do you need a secular forum only to discuss things that are a matter of living?
Yeah, because there is nothing respectable about any religion whatsoever. It is a superstitious belief which is outdated. People can live life totally without subscribing to any religion, and they can live a happier and cleaner life. And your second problem is homosexuality is not natural because it cannot be transferred to the next generation naturally. So it has not been there in the billion-year history of the planet or million-year history of the biological living being.
It's certainly been there for thousands of years, Dr. Swami.
No, the people misunderstand. You see, when the males who lose the fight for a mate in animal kingdom, they are forced to please themselves by other means. But it is like a choice forced on them. It is not a lifestyle choice, which is by that definition now then, Dr. Swami, are you saying that anyone who is gay now, the only reason that they are gay is they lost out in a fight to find a woman? They might choose not to have anything to do with women because of their upbringing or because of whatever got into their brain as a brainwash as a child.
Right.
There is no genetic basis. You can't have a blood test to decide. Like you can have a blood test to decide whether somebody is diabetic. You can't have a blood test to decide blood or any test, genetic test. There is no biological basis for homosexuality. It is a lifestyle choice. It is not even the correct word. It is a
Dr. Swami, there is much debate around that.
It is just a way of masturbation. It is nothing to do with
there is much debate around that, Dr. Swami. Thank you very much indeed. Let's speak to Jai, who got in contact with us, who's in Kent. Good morning.
Oh, hello, Nihal.
What would you like to say, my friend?
Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, always a pleasure.
There's a conflict between tradition and modernity. Tradition tends to dominate modernity, and modernity, unsure about its future, keeps on repeating the mistakes of tradition. Now, I'm a libertarian with limits. I'm not a complete 100% libertarian.
Okay.
I believe in free speech, but there's a time and place. I don't believe you should discuss these things in a temple or a mosque or a mandil or a gurdwara, because it's a place of worship. But under Western capitalism, under Western ideology, nothing is sacred. Everything is profane. And you're allowed to discuss everything, anywhere. It doesn't really matter. You see, freedom, absolute freedom, and no responsibility is the manifesto of a political harlot.
Right.
We must have limits to what we can talk about and discuss.
Why?
We can't talk about the sex act openly. We can't talk about a lot of things openly because there are laws of defamation.
But isn't that just no, you can't accuse someone, you can accuse someone of something that they haven't done. Like you say, there are laws of defamation that will get in the way of it.
Yes.
But you can have a discussion about homosexuality. We've just heard from someone who believes that homosexuality is a lifestyle choice. Now, there are others who believe that you are genetically pre-programmed to be heterosexual or homosexual.
Yes, you can have a discussion, but not within a sacred building. Not like a good one, because it is very corrupting. This discussion on homosexuality and lesbianism is a very corrupting thing. It corrupts the person who is talking about it, and it corrupts the persons who are listening to it. But this is the Western approach to things. They discuss everything, but certain things are excluded. For instance, the security of the state. You don't discuss that. That is a taboo subject. The relationship between the upper class, middle class, and lower class, we can discuss, but we can't discuss the role of the royal family, because that's a taboo subject. But as I said, free speech without responsibility is a privilege of a political harlot. But let me give you a little idea of what...
You're going to have to be very quick, Jai.
Yes.
Go on.
Machiavelli in his treatise on statecraft. He says it is very difficult to execute, very dangerous to administer, and very dubious of success than to introduce a new order of things.
OK, I'm going to leave it there, Jai. Thank you. Bipin is in Leicester. Good morning, Bipin.
Good morning.
What do you think?
We go to temple, we go to holy places for inspiration, not sexual thought. We don't go in the temple having sexual thoughts. So why are we discussing homosexuality, which is a verb form of sexuality anyway? It's mostly driven, Western-driven and fashionable approach to procreation.
So
as far as we Indians are concerned, we don't accept homosexuality.
But Hinduism hasn't said anything about homosexuality, has it?
Well, the laws on yoga says that you must be celibate to succeed in yoga.
Oh, right. Well, that's talking about celibacy. So in that respect, then, are you saying heterosexuality is also sinful?
Exactly.
So any type of... So how is the human race... You can't pick up a baby in Tesco's. I mean, how are we going to carry on as a human race?
No, that's why we have laws. That's why we have spiritual laws to guide us safely into higher places.
OK, we're going to have to leave it there. Other supermarkets are available.
The sound of Asian Britain. On digital TV, online and on your mobile. This is BBC Asian...
I got for you this morning, I think is a very interesting one. And it's not just about Muslims, and it's not just about Islam, and it's not just about mosques. It's about being able to have an open debate about homosexuality in any religious building. Now, if you're a Sikh, how do you feel about that? If you're a Hindu, how do you feel about that? BBC Three's free speech programme, which is basically a television version of our show, came from Birmingham Central Mosque last night. They were due to have a discussion about when it would be okay to be Muslim and gay. They had a video diary from the gay Muslim drag queen Asifa Lahore, who's of course been a guest on this show quite a while back. An hour before the programme went on, the people who run the mosque said that free speech couldn't go ahead with this particular discussion. BBC Three says that they had an agreement that they could discuss anything, but they hadn't talked to the mosque about homosexuality, opening the door to discussion and showing a different side of Islam from within one of its religious buildings. Come on, tell me what you think. Is it ever acceptable to have a debate about homosexuality in a religious building? We've got someone coming on who's a Sikh. He's also gay and believes that it would not be appropriate or acceptable to have a conversation about homosexuality in a Gurdwara. Do you agree with him or disagree? And what if you're a Hindu? Hinduism, a religion that says there are many paths to God. I've been told on this show by Hindus before that there is nothing technically against homosexuality in Hinduism. So, can you imagine such a debate happening in your local temple? Be honest with me. That's all I ask. Tell me what you believe. Tell me what your instinct is when you hear this question. Specifically, when the mosque found out, they put the block on it. The producer of Free Speech says the mosque didn't want to be seen to be condoning homosexuality. So what do you think about this? Do you think the mosque did anything wrong? Do you believe that a Christian church, a Sikh Gurdwara, a Hindu temple, or a Jewish synagogue would have done anything any differently? Was the programme stupid in the first place to think that they could talk about being gay and Muslim in a mosque? Apparently, the mosque said anything meant veil, terrorism, grooming, but not homosexuality. Which, of course, then doesn't mean anything, does it? Do you understand where they're coming from? Or do you think that it's strange that they were happy to talk about anything else, but not being Muslim and gay? And what do you think about a discussion show coming from a mosque? Do you think it is designed to be inflammatory and to paint Muslims in a bad light? Or do you feel that it is an important exercise? Is it disrespectful to have a debate about homosexuality in a religious building? Not only do we have series producer of BBC's Free Speech coming up, we also have Dr. Nassim. And he is the chairperson of the Birmingham Central Mosque. So we're going to go in from the off dealing with two people at the heart of this debate. But of course, it's all about your opinions, what you think. So don't be shy. If you've never texted, called or emailed this show before, make today the first time that you do it. Text 81869, email me, Nihal, at bbc.co.uk. You can tweet us at BBC Asian Network and leave a comment for us on our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/BBC Asian Network. So there you go. That's 4 ways. Here's the 5th.
Call Nihal now on 08459 440 445.
Do you believe that it's disrespectful to have a debate about homosexuality in a regime? I salute all 3 of you. Now, it is 10 a.m. It is time for the phone-in show on the BBC Asian Network with me, Nihal, with a question. Is it disrespectful to have a debate about homosexuality in a religious building? BBC 3's Free Speech, a programme a bit like this, but of course it's on TV, so it's visual. They were due to hold a live televised debate about being Muslim and gay last night, but the discussion was pulled at the last minute after the mosque management objected. Are you surprised? Would a church, temple or gurdwara be any different? Is it ever appropriate to hold a debate about being gay in a religious building? How do you feel about that? As a Hindu? As a Sikh? Would you be comfortable with a debate around homosexuality taking place in your place of worship? 08459 440 445. Give me a call. After news with Nikesh Ragan.